And we're back with three members of the Illinois congressional delegation to talk about the status of the next stimulus package. Joining us again are Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, a Democrat who serves in congressional leadership as the Senior Chief Deputy Whip, Congressman Mike Quigley, a Democrat who serves on the Appropriations and Intelligence Committees, and Congressman Krishnamoorthi, a Democrat who serves as an Assistant Whip and sits on the Oversight and Intelligence Committees. Again, we invited all the Republican members of the Illinois delegation, but they declined our invitation tonight. And again, we're happy that you three Congress folks join us tonight. Let's talk about COVID relief. Congressman Quigley, is there a package that could be negotiated with the Senate that would pass in lame duck?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, Mitch McConnell says that it should be the first thing on the agenda, springing into action about, what, 6 months after the House Democrats passed a pretty comprehensive bill. And then as an attempt to compromise, passed Heroes 2, coming down $1 trillion. So it's about time, if he finally means it. Clearly there's a deal to be done, if only to get us into the next administration.
Congresswoman Schakowsky, would a deal involve money for municipalities like Chicago and Illinois and transit agencies that say they desperately need the money right now?
Well, that's certainly on the agenda of Speaker Pelosi, saying that we need state and local help. But so far, we have not heard that either from the White House or from Mitch McConnell. And I just want to tell you that it is just desperate out there. And I get calls too often from constituents, men and women, who are weeping into the telephone because they can't pay the rent. They can't put food on the table. So there's a desperate need for a recovery bill to actually pass. And so far, we've heard there is interest from the White House and from Mitch McConnell, and I hope we're going to get to be on the same page.
And all this comes as COVID reaches its worst peak yet. In the winter here, cases continuing to spiral out of control. Congressman Krishnamoorthi, there is some light at the end of the tunnel with a vaccine trial for Pfizer saying that their trial was 90% effective. How soon do you think a vaccine would be available to the public, and then how would it be distributed out to the public?
What we're hearing is that potentially there might be some fraction of the number that's needed to vaccinate the entire population, possibly ready by the winter time, assuming that these vaccines are proved to be safe and effective. That's extremely important, by the way, that there be a transparent process to verify that. Otherwise, the American people won't take the vaccine. With regard to how it's going to be distributed, I think that's something that's very high on the agenda for Joe Biden. He has to make sure that it's distributed fairly, that we make sure that we distribute it to communities of color and others who are vulnerable populations right now, along with our first responders and health professionals who are going to be dealing with people on the front lines. And then we have to make sure that we encourage in a massive public relations campaign that everybody get vaccinated, because there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy right now. Not only anti-vaxxers who already existed before the pandemic, but quite frankly, people who are just concerned that Donald Trump and others politicize the process and need to be reassured that a new sheriff is in town, there's new management, and we're going to make sure that this is safe and effective when it gets delivered to the American people.
A lot of uncertainty there. Congresswoman Schakowsky, today in the Supreme Court there were oral arguments heard in the case to overthrow the Affordable Care Act. It sounded from the statements made by some conservative justices that they might be receptive to keeping it. Is that the way you're reading it?
Well, first of all, the president, of course, would be absolutely furious because he is determined to undo the Affordable Care Act. But what you said is absolutely true. Even from Kavanaugh and from the Chief Justice, there seemed to be some support for keeping the Affordable Care Act pretty much intact. And so we're going to have to wait and see. But let's hope for the best, because there would be literally millions and millions of Americans that would not have protection for pre-existing condition, actually about 130 million Americans, and millions of others that would be suffering from the loss of the Affordable Care Act. The president just wants to do away with anything that Barack Obama did, regardless of its consequence for the American people.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Our thanks to Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, Congressman Mike Quigley, and Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Thank you so much for being here.